next thing, I've got some news over here. Some local high school kids are in for a rude awakening come September at Old Rochester, where they're banning cell phones from the classroom, saying they're too distracting. NBC 10's Adam Bagney looks into that decision.
Phones have just really overtaken everything in the classroom.
I think it's a different world than what we used to live in.
It's a debate at Old Rochester Regional. The Mattapoisett High School saying no to cell phones in the classroom after the school committee decided Thursday the devices must be kept in lockers during the school day. Principal Michael Duvall says cell phone use in class is one of the school's biggest problems.
We've found it to be the single greatest distractor facing a kid today.
Ironically, Duvall was a strong supporter of cell phones 3 years ago, convincing the committee to allow the devices at the discretion of the teacher. But now he's changing his tune, saying it's just too hard to regulate.
The temptation to check, to be distracted, is just overwhelming. And we still are allowing students devices. We have Chromebooks in classrooms. Students can bring tablets, can bring laptops.
Now, of course, the biggest critics of this policy are the students themselves who are away on summer break. But administrators say for the most part, parents are on board despite one singular question. How do I get in touch with my child in an emergency?
And the children could communicate with their parents and they could tell them they were okay, and I feel like that's really important.
Meantime, students who violate the rule will face detention, a third strike, and their phone will be completely banned for the rest of the year. And the principal promises he'll lead by example.
I can't fly in the face of our own recommendation and, walk around flaunting my phone use. I'm going to try to model the behavior with the kids and, keep my phone in my office.
In Mattapoisett, I'm Adam Bagney, NBC 10 News.
Beginning March 1st, we're going to change the guidelines that we enforce when it comes to cellular and technology usage in the building. The reason we came to this conclusion is we feel like there has been a major disruption within the learning environment with the intrusion, and that's the word I'll use, of cellular devices. Students are so focused on them sometimes. It's difficult for them to ignore a call, a text, anything, because as a society, it's almost connected to our hands anymore. So in our efforts to be responsible stewards of our educational environment, we felt like it was important to address this issue, that both here in our school as well as in society, we're seeing a rise in, in instances of misuse and things like that. So our main focus as an educational institution is to provide the best quality education for the students that we are charged to serve. And as a staff, as an administrative team, we just did not feel like that we were offering that to the best of our ability with cell phones in the picture. So beginning March 1st, we're asking that students beginning at 8:25, which represents our first bell, up until 3:30, leave their cell phones out of sight and out of mind. That means we don't want to see them. We don't want to hear them. We understand the concerns from parents in terms of being able to contact their students about practice delays or pickups and things like that. So at 3:30, when the bell rings, students are free to access their cell phones and see what's going on, see what messages they need to have and things of that nature.
Phones are not to be used during this time.
Oxford Hills Middle School putting their cell phone policy in text, not messages, but handbooks, alerting parents and students about their new zero-tolerance policy ahead of the start of school.
For the most part, this is when the kids get their first cell phone, and they don't know how to use it appropriately yet.
Administrators say although an official school-wide policy has been a long time coming, the reason behind it has evolved.
The past few years, it's been creeping up on us. Technology has changed.
Phones now are like little computers, so it's really not necessarily as much about cheating as it is about some of the social media impacting things. Kids just constantly on their phones communicating with other people, sometimes inappropriate use.
Oxford Hills just one of several schools strengthening their policies, including Lewiston. The middle school principal says it was social media bullying that may have contributed to a student's suicide last year. Pelletier says the response to the Oxford Hills policy has been mostly positive, with only some parents expressing concern.
They don't agree because they want to keep in touch with their child, which I get.
But the school says their responsibility is helping kids learn, and eliminating phones is instrumental to doing that.
Well, kids can always come into the office to have that communication with their parents, and the office is a 2-minute walk from any place in the building. It's not quite instant gratification, but there's always that quick connection if we need to get a hold of someone.
In Paris, Erin Dixon, WMTW News 8.
What was your reaction when you found out about this earlier this summer, that cell phones wouldn't be allowed in school now?
I think it's a great idea.
Why?
Because that's the problem with these kids nowadays. They're always on their cell phones and they don't know how to interact out of cell phones. I mean, don't get me wrong, our daughter has a cell phone, but she knows when to use it and when she's not allowed to use it.
If my kid needs to reach me to let me know that they missed the bus or that they need to stay late for some reason, as long as I have that ability to communicate, I don't need to be in contact with them during the school day. If there's an emergency, of course, I'd want to be in touch with them, but I think you have to trust the folks in the building to protect our kids while they're in class. And I think that up until recent years, that was kind of the case. We had to do that. So I don't view that as a big problem.
We still have the policy where kids can bring iPads, Chromebooks, laptops, that type of thing to the building to use. So they still can bring their own devices as they want, but just not smartphones. For a couple reasons, smartphones have a smaller screen, so it's harder to see exactly what's going on those screens. And for the kids' sake too, and their health, it's a smaller screen, and they can see things much better on a Chromebook or another type of device. It's easier for teachers to monitor what's going on those other devices as well. We used to allow, when we had smartphones, we used to allow devices at lunch. As you might imagine, many of the kids their faces in their phone or their device. They're not communicating with other kids. So we thought it would be nice change for them to put away their device, come to lunch or breakfast in the morning, and communicate with each other. We see kids bringing card games in and that type of thing. We have probably 30 decks of cards out there for kids to play. We're thinking about teaching them how to play different card games at lunchtime too, just to be able to socialize and instead of playing some type of app on their phone or Snapchatting each other at lunchtime, which is hard to control too. It seems like kids have a hard time talking to each other face to face now. I use my son for example. He Snapchats or texts people. It's harder for them to have a conversation face to face. I think kids in middle school level say things through text messages that they would never say to someone's face. So just that personal interaction, I think, is important for kids to learn at this age too, how to communicate with each other effectively, not through text messaging and that type of thing.
But during school hours where academics are supposed to be the focus, it's imperative that we make it the focus. So we're asking to be able to enforce these new guidelines in accordance with that. We're looking for different ways, and we found some ways for parents to still be able to access their students in the case of emergency. We're a one-to-one school, so students all have emails, they all have Chromebooks, so parents will be able to email their students if needed, if there's an absolute emergency that they need to get a hold of their student right away, or they have the option of sending a message through to the main office, obviously. But as far as the ability to access cellular devices, iPads, things of that nature, we're asking that not happen. There's no change in consequences or anything of that nature. We feel that our rules and guidelines related to that were fine and adequate. We're just asking that during those school hours that I mentioned before, cellular devices, personal cellular devices, not be visible or utilized here during the school.
First, I was a little concerned because I wouldn't be able to reach. I have 13-year-old twins at the school, so I was concerned I wouldn't be able to get a hold of them if something happened or I needed to change my schedule picking them up or something. But then after talking to Mrs. Jackson and her explaining the reasoning behind it, I totally am for it because there's so much bullying and so much things that kids need to be concerned about learning in that about their phones and what's going on with other kids. So I think you get in touch with some emergency, I can always call the office, so I think it's a distraction in the classroom sometimes.
And so, did you have a different impression when you first heard about it, and then after you heard the explanation, it made more sense?
At the first time I heard it, I was like,